speaking stuff. I'm learning.
You want to look at this camera? I'll look at that.
Jesus
Okay.
didn't have a problem with people that's in the streets. He had a problem with religious people.
How can I help anybody when I was not even able to help my own son?
I would never do that. I would never do that. And I became that in a matter of minutes when they took my pain pills away.
And I said, I'm not where I want to be, but thank God I'm not what I used to be.
This is Faith in Your Recovery. I am Randy Davis. Welcome to the battle. Greetings and thanks for joining us today on this episode of Faith in Your Recovery. We're glad you're alongside. We apologize for the slight delay, but here we are, and we're excited to share our story and maybe touch your life, your heart, bring about some change, help, and hope. That's why we're here. Our guest today is Lauren Abshear. Welcome, Lauren.
Hi, Randy. Thank you.
Glad you're with us. Appreciate you making the drive over, taking the time out of your schedule. Why were you willing to do that? Oh, and I understand this, your birthday, yeah?
It is my birthday.
Why would you do such a thing on your birthday?
Well, I think I couldn't have chosen a better place to be, honestly, for my birthday. So I'm very happy to be here with you.
Well, we're happy to have you here. Let's go back, because I've read in your bio and other things about you, your addiction issues began with prescriptions. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's accurate. I was actually 6 months away from getting my nursing license when I got into all my trouble and stuff initially. So
6 months from your license?
Yes.
Wow, go ahead and tell us about that struggle, that trouble.
Okay, well, I guess at that time I really didn't even realize I was an addict. I went through, like I said, I was going to nursing school. I was a single mom. I had my oldest son when I got pregnant when I was 17, and I had him at 18 years old. So I just graduated school. I was really figuring out life and stuff, I guess. And like I said, I definitely never realized I was an addict until, honestly, it sounds crazy, but prison. When I ended up in prison ultimately and went through my Purposeful Incarceration classes. So let me jump back, I guess,
Sure.
Get ahead of myself a little bit. But so I was going to nursing school. I had always, my first prescription, I guess I got on Xanax. I got prescribed Xanax by a physician. I had really bad anxiety. I still do have anxiety. I've learned to deal with that a little bit. But I got on Xanax and I definitely took it. I don't know. That was probably the first thing I really, I guess, started taking. And obviously, I guess it kind of calmed my thoughts, and that was probably what I started out with, and started my addiction for sure. I slowly went from that to, I guess, pain pills, really. I played sports when I was younger in school, and then volleyball. I'd hurt my knee at one time, so I had issues with that. And it just kind of went from one thing to another. I grew up with a father that was an addict, and my brother as well. I think, Randy, you knew my brother. He spoke at a couple events that you did a while back years ago. And so going through all that, even with Keith, my brother as well, at that time, I never even realized I was an addict. And, but like I said, it was so normal to me. My dad, I grew up around him, who still took pills and who sold pills and just lots of things that is not, I guess it's not normal for a lot of people, but that was normal for me in a crazy way. So to an extent, not my whole family is like that, I shouldn't say.
I understand.
Yes.
How long ago was that when you started getting into the Xanax and you knew there was something going on? You just weren't sure yet what it was.
Well, honestly, that was when I was probably 16, my first time I got prescribed Xanax. And so it just led from, we partied when we were younger, but it wasn't like, I would have never thought of heroin or things like that at that time. People like maybe smoked weed and drank on the weekends and things like that when we were in school. But even then, like I said, taking the Xanax, I honestly didn't even realize at the time it was such an addictive drug, I guess. At that time in my life, I didn't even realize that I mean, we knew about addiction, but I don't think it was out there, like outspoken, like it is, and it came
Not
to
like
be.
we can do today. Here we are on a podcast talking about addiction. Back in the day,
Yeah.
and I know the days were much different, okay? But I recognize the idea that certain things are accepted in certain households. So why is that abnormal, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And it's the idea of during particular days, particular seasons, certain things are okay as long as we can maintain certain behaviors, or at least that's our thinking. I'm not saying I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to put an identity to it. And addiction used to be the kind of thing you whispered about it. You sure didn't talk about it over a podcast or on a radio program or on anything else that wasn't public conversation. Today, we can do that. That helps us battle that. So as you move from Xanax to, your addictions, once you were able to label it that, what all kinds of drugs did you go through, Lauren?
I mean, I guess I partied when I was younger. I didn't honestly do any other like hard drugs until after I got out of school. So, I mean, the pills and stuff, but like I said, I got them prescribed. And then I worked in a doctor's office right before and during nursing school. So I was in my early 20s. And I got them prescribed, so I thought it was okay.
I've heard that more than once. If it's prescribed, how can it be, quote, a bad drug?
Absolutely. And so it went from that, like I said, from Xanax to pain pills, I guess. And then, gosh, ultimately led to heroin, which is crazy because I'd went through it with my brother for probably his whole adult life, and I'd never even seen it. I'd been around him when he was high and his friends and things like that, but I would have never dreamed I would have even done it. Like now, still sometimes it seems surreal because to think, even just, I don't know, just some of the things to think that I can't imagine in my life now ever doing those. I just can't imagine that I did those things sometimes too. It still makes me kind of sick sometimes.
So was it heroin that led you to incarceration?
Absolutely. Heroin, and I got mixed up with a guy who was an addict, recovered. Well, he wasn't recovered, I should say, but a guy that was an addict, and he'd been in prison and same kind of things. And like I said, I was around some of those people a lot. I guess I always had a lot of empathy, though, because of my brother. So I didn't ever look at him as bad. Even like I said, now thinking about heroin, I wouldn't even be around the same room or in people around that kind of anything. So it's bizarre to think that I was just so okay with that, I guess. But like I said, had been around my brother, Keith, for, gosh, I think he was young when we realized that he was doing those things. And I would get so mad at him. I argued with him for 10 years about this before I ever even touched it. And that's what's crazy. But I would ask him even times like, why can't you just quit? Just stop. And I didn't understand.
That, we hear that yet today. Why don't they just quit? Why don't they just... And most individuals into addiction wish they could. That it was that simple.
Absolutely.
I don't think we would have the addiction issue today, but when you look at everything it takes to climb above it, how many years ago was it that your incarceration began?
Okay, so 2014, I want to say 2015, I think, is when I went to, yes. So, and then
10 or 11 years ago.
Yep. So it was, I'm sorry, my dates, it was traumatizing. I try to forget that stuff.
Sure.
No, I'm just kidding. But really, so yeah, about 10 years ago, and I ended up doing 4 years total. So, and myself, that was my own fault, some of it. I actually got into some trouble. I was in there even, which is crazy. I got sentenced to purposeful incarceration, which is...
I want to talk about that. Tell the folks what it means, what it requires to be sentenced to purposeful incarceration. That's a mouthful for me.
It is.
Purposeful incarceration.
Yes.
So tell the folks what that's about.
All right. And I think at the time I did not like it. I hated it, actually. But now looking back, it was great for me. So purposeful incarceration, basically, I had some pretty big charges. I'd gotten into some trouble, like I said, with my ex at the time. And he had been in trouble before, so he got sent to DOC immediately, basically. But I got a chance a little bit. But purposeful is where you get sentenced to do a therapeutic community program. So it lasts, gosh, I forget how long it lasted, close to a year. And it was intensive treatment, basically like an intensive inpatient treatment for that whole time. So
what did a treatment session look like?
Well, in prison,
Yes.
lived, it was classes every day. We were separated on a different dorm from like normal open population. And so like you had to really follow the rules. You couldn't talk to the girls that were in the open parts of the campus. Like it was only the people that were in the program. And we woke up every morning. We did like classes. We do affirmations and things like that. And then we did a lot of group classes. And then we would have separate counseling with our counselors as well. We had counselors and stuff. And you just go through different steps in the program until you complete. And I did actually complete the program in there.
Congrats.
Thank you. At the time, I didn't realize how big of a deal that was. And even for a while, it took me a long time to see that. I've really learned a lot from the program. Because like I said, at the time, I didn't even want to do it. I still didn't think I was an addict. And going through those classes, I learned, oh my gosh, so much about myself. And I healed a lot. I had the therapy stuff. It really did help me tremendously.
What were a couple of the gems you did pick up from that type of incarceration? What are a couple of the pieces that have made you a better person?
Sure. When we live in such a small world and in Randolph County and just in Winchester where we're at, we live in a bubble almost. And I'd been exposed to a lot of things, but not like I was exposed to things in prison, I guess, and the people. And this is one thing that sticks out. I've told my husband this. This is kind of, I think, the day that it stuck with me really too. I'm going to try not to cry today.
That's okay.
But, I remember sitting in a group. We had I guess he was a teacher that came in that day or a counselor or something. And there was a room of women. It was every woman that was in the program. It was a really big room. And there were 4 women at each table.
Guesstimate how many women we're talking?
I'd say, oh gosh, at least 150,
okay.
Probably 200 women. Yes,
150 plus.
200 women, yeah. And 4 women at each table. And he told us that 2% statistic, how real that is. And he basically put it into perspective to us. But he said 1 woman at each table you'll make it. He said the other 3, that means that you're either going to be back here in prison or you'll be dead, basically. And it's sad, but I've seen that statistic. I mean, it's tenfold since I've come home, and it's really, really sad. Lots of good women. You just meet you meet people where they're at, and they're at their lowest almost. I mean, you know what I mean? You got nothing to offer. You've got nothing it's the lowest point, one of the lowest points of your life, more than likely. So you learn who people are sober, and who these people out here probably looked at like they were some of them were horrible. That I'm sure people looked at me like that at one time. And I was never a bad person, and they weren't bad people. They just did the best that they knew how to do with the choices that they had at the time.
Well, and as you mentioned, growing up where it's accepted and normal.
Yes.
When you find out it's not, only then do you know, and it's usually too late.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's got its claws into you, and you're living that lifestyle.
Yes.
What was one of the most powerful things that you learned about Lauren?
To stand on my own, and I definitely learned to be strong. I think that I have empathy, and I have a big heart for people, but I think I had I gave myself and gave myself away to everybody and had nothing left. Sorry. But that's what ultimately I don't know. I let myself lose myself in the process of all of that. And I had to learn to be strong and learn to take care of myself, I guess I should say. I've always kind of taken care of myself, but I had to learn how important that was. And I couldn't take care of anybody until I was healed.
Amen to that.
And I had a lot of things that I had to still work out in myself. We went through some traumatizing stuff growing up. I just went through a lot of things that I never realized was even a problem for me, I guess, as crazy as that sounds. And like I said, I didn't know I was an addict. I would have never called myself that until after prison. I knew, like I said, looking back now, I definitely had addictive tendencies, but we didn't talk about that, like you said. So even in school, we had like DARE and things like that. But I do believe there's got to be a genetic disposition, something to it sometimes as well, just because of some of the things I've seen and the people that I've seen now too. But to education, like we really needed more education on some things like that, not just saying like us in general, but as a generation. Even still to this day, people need educated on addiction.
We couldn't educate you back then because we couldn't talk about it out loud. You know, we knew it was prevalent. We knew it was around. We knew we had friends who were struggling with it, but you whisper it. You know, you don't talk about it in a classroom. Praise God, things have changed now. As we said earlier, we can bring it out in the light. And that's the only way we can expose the issue, is bring it into the light. That's where all truth's seen and known. As you struggled with that, what was the most, this will be difficult, you may want to get a Kleenex.
Okay.
What was the most painful thing for you, or at least a painful thing?
I lost my brother the first year that I was at IWP. So and that was hard. You met Keith at one time, I remember, and Keith was, everybody tells me I'm a light and they can talk to me and those things, and Keith was just the same person, and he did a lot of things, bad things, but everybody still loved him, and because they knew who he was as a person and his heart and his soul, I think. But losing him in there that was a whole, I learned a lot about myself with that also. It was a whole nother form of grief, of just to grieve that in there in a place like that. Keith was my best friend. He was, we were super close. We were a year and 3 days apart. So his birthday actually would be on Friday. And so that was really hard for me. I didn't see a lot of people while I was in there. I didn't talk to a lot of friends. You definitely, when you go through things like that, you learn who your people are and you find out who's there for you. And unfortunately, I felt like I didn't have, it was myself. I hate to say that. And my mom came when she could and things like that, and she helps me out while I was in there. But other than that, that was really about it. So Keith was the one person I knew I would have had. And so when I lost him, it was within, I got to IWP and it was within my first probably 6 months there. So I remember the day it happened, everything that morning. It was surreal. It was just so, he'd been out of jail for 2 weeks. He got out. He'd been in there for 2 years, and he got out for 2 weeks, and he passed. And excuse me, I found out through a message on our JPay that morning. I hadn't even got to talk to my family yet. And then I just cried, I think, in the bathroom for that whole morning and slept for about 2 weeks. I never knew I could sleep that much, but I guess depression does that. And so that was rough. That was definitely the hardest thing I went through.
He was obviously more than a brother. Sounds like he was a best friend, your confidant, that solid piece, regardless of his own struggles. He was still that solid piece you needed to get through during those times.
Absolutely. The last conversation we had, I remember that night before, and that's what he was like, I got you, sis. He was like, I'm home. I will be there. He was trying to get on my visit list, trying to do all this stuff because he'd been through it all and he understood. And when you go through it, like I said, even myself, before I went actually through my heroin addiction, I would get so mad at him. I just didn't understand it. I didn't know. And still, I think today, honestly, I've questioned so many times why all of that happened and why things went the way that they did. But I know I don't think God wanted me to get high, but I think that ultimately I had to understand that too. And I do now in a whole other light than what I would have seen it before I started.
Absolutely, I'm sure. So I know you said it was in prison that you actually came to the revelation, I am an addict. I have an addiction issue. You've already confessed the fact that you were just, of the type to have different addictions and everything. What was the lights on moment? Or maybe your rock bottom, you may want to call it that. I don't know if they're one and the same. But what was the lights on moment that said to you, I can do this. This is not me or who I want to be. I can step it up a notch. I can become more of who I've been created to be.
At the time, I wouldn't have even said I understood that all as much until right now in my life, probably, and like who I'm supposed to be and who I've come to be, my purpose. I never would have even thought things like that. I don't know. It was just talk, whatever. You know what? I don't know. I just didn't take it as serious, I guess, but I never believed in my heart like I do now that is so true. And we do have a purpose. And I think my biggest realization in there, when I got in trouble at Madison, right after I finished my program. Oh my gosh, it was horrible. So, and that was, like I said, my brother had passed away. So I went through it and I did Suboxone in there once. And, and you didn't see that at all the women's prisons. Women's are way different than the men's were, but I did at Madison and I did do it while I was there. And, I didn't even realize how big of a deal that was. Like, I don't know. I'm still in that lifestyle kind of. You're still around people that are in that lifestyle and you're still, I hate to say it, but some people it's like criminal activity almost goes on in there and it's normal. It just stays like that. It sounds weird. Some people learn to become better criminals. I hate to say that,
No,
but
it's a fact. It's a statistical fact.
Is it? Yes, I believe.
Yeah,
yes.
I have no doubt.
Yeah.
So where did your faith start? What was one of your first God moments that you knew you were more valued than you were treating yourself with?
You want to know something crazy, really?
Sure.
Probably not until the last, since I've been home. So for the last 4 years, I've been clean since that time in there. I haven't done any of that stuff, but when I came home, I almost was angry and like hated the world. I think I had to go through some other things when I came home. And then my husband, he came into my life about 4 years ago and it was a blessing. And he has had he's the complete opposite of me. Our lives and our lifestyles were, and just a lot of things. And him and coming into my life and just seeing how normal, whatever you would say is normal, everybody's normal is different.
Right.
But compared to my life, and just getting to see his family and just the love and the being around people, I don't know, just a different group of people that care and support. And
his was a normal that you wanted.
Yes. And I would have never given him the chance before just because I think in my heart, I didn't think I deserved good things in some messed up way. And I think a lot of people with any kind of trauma or past experiences, like I've had things, you get trained to feel that way, I guess, and to date. Like I dated the worst guys, and he was the first good man that I guess I ever really had been with. And to see that normalcy, I guess, and it was weird for me because I was so used to toxic, crazy, just lifestyle and men and just in general, everything. So in the beginning, even with him, I would wait I almost waited for something to happen.
Waited for the shoe to fall?
Yes.
I've heard the same story. I say that respectfully, not to diminish yours, but I get what you mean.
Yes.
You're in a habit, whether it's a dating style or a eating style, a lifestyle of some type. But once you make that change, you see there is another way.
Yes.
And often it's a better way. We hope that's the case.
Yes.
When did you first come to your own recognition of God? How'd that come about?
Oh, I've questioned God a lot. I did in prison, and my grandma is the most faithful woman I've ever met in my life. She's amazing, and my family all from Pennsylvania is, and we went to church with her. We knew God. I don't know. I mean, I just said this not too long ago. I never understood what having an intimate relationship with God meant until recently in my life. And that's insane. I'm 39 today. So
No, it's not. Be thrilled you got it at
It is
39 instead
amazing.
of 49 or 59, 69, okay?
Right,
You've
right.
got all the more time that way. You made a comment. I want to read this. Tell us about how you see the needs in small town, rural communities for recovery resources, long-term support, trauma-informed environments. That's going to lead us in to let you tell us the story of the New Roots Recovery Village. But
Okay.
hit that first, and then we'll go to where you're at today.
Okay. So I guess, like I said, after going through what I went through with my brother as not thinking I was an addict and seeing what he in and out for the last 10 years of his life of the system, not a lot of support, not a lot of, it was his life. That got to be his life. And he'd get on work release and something back and forth, back and forth. So then when I went, and I went through, like I said, the therapeutic community, I realized that was tremendous for me. And they don't have a lot of resources like that here. I needed help. I remember 2 weeks before we got arrested, laying in bed, and I didn't want to. I told the guy I was with at that time, I wanted to die. I didn't care if we died or went to jail that day because it was the most miserable feeling, helpless feeling in your life. And I've never been to that point again, thank God. But that's the worst feeling in the world. And I called and called. We called places to try and go to, like, just to get in, to get help, to go to the clinic, to do something. That's what I thought would be the answer to everything, was just to go to the clinic. And luckily I didn't do that though. But we couldn't get in anywhere, and you couldn't get in without insurance. Well, when you're in addiction, you usually lose about everything. Most people lose everything. And then they just throw people right back out into the system with no support, no access to anything. I got blessed to be able to come home and get a job at Ardall Glass, which was amazing for me. And that was huge. But a lot of people don't get that opportunity.
Well, and then the felony or
Yes.
whatever being held against you and disallowing you to get particular jobs.
Oh, yeah. I worked at Pizza King until I got on at Ardall. And like I said, I had to go in there pretty much. But luckily, I had family there. But if it wasn't for that, it would have been a lot more difficult. And there's not a lot of opportunity for felons. And just like I said, people in addiction, I had to come home and get my license back. That was thousands of dollars. A lot of people wouldn't have been able to. I worked a lot of overtime. I did things to be able to do that, but a lot of people don't have that. Even just to come and go from appointments. I've seen so many girls now that I was in there with that got right back out and started doing the same thing because that's all they knew.
Exactly.
And they didn't know any different. And we now in rural towns, especially like Randolph County, we have, you guys are the only meetings, I think, still the Brianna's Hope meetings that we've gotten over there. And it's a need. It's here. It is everywhere. But I think the rural towns, it seems like, got hit so hard. Which, I mean, we all know about all the opioid stuff and when all that happened. And I remember working at the doctor's office when they used to come in and give you gifts and stuff, like bringing in to sell for prescriptions. And it's sad, but they pushed that. In a way, I feel like they kind of do the methadone and stuff now too. But we need other options. We've got to, like I said, even they've got to start meeting people where they're at, and we have to give people tools to succeed, to be able to do those things, or else nothing's going to change.
as you touched on there, Big Pharma did us a lot of harm in all of that.
Yeah.
When you're pushing free samples that get you hooked to buy the next experience, where can it lead other than to darkness? Okay,
Yes.
I know this is near and dear to your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Let's hear about your involvement in the New Roots Recovery Village. Begin by telling our folks what that is, because I'm sure to a lot of them that's a new label. I want them to understand. So you just take over as if it was yours and tell us.
All right. Thank you, Randy. Well, I am the CEO and founder of New Roots Recovery Village. So we are a new nonprofit organization in Randolph County. And this obviously is where all this came from. And it is very close to my heart. So it took off. And Randy, this is one of those things, like I said, God has made me believe even more. Everything that's happened with this has been so insane. And it's all fallen, like the timing couldn't have been more perfect, and alignment just with everybody that's came into our lives for this. Just all the things that have happened have been too insane not to happen. And I didn't even plan on doing this initially in Randolph County. I was looking to go elsewhere, and I just kept getting sucked back in. And I know that's God as well, because we need the services here in Randolph County, and we need them in our areas and our
need
counties.
them everywhere.
Yes, absolutely. So we are planning, well, we're in the process. We actually have a recovery resource center. We have offices that we are opening up in on the courthouse square in Winchester. So we got blessed with some really good people in our lives that helped us get some space upstairs. The girls down at Divas were friends of mine. I'm sure people aren't all, sorry, we're on a podcast, aren't all aware with Divas, but they're a boutique in Winchester and they're amazing. But the girls helped us they had a space upstairs, and I went up to look at an office space, and it ended up being this huge, like it's going to be a community center. And I am super excited about it. So I've been going to all kinds of meetings and meeting with people that have a lot of stake in our county to do some things and make some changes. So we're going to start out with this resource center up here, but New Roots Recovery Village initially was planning just to be will be a structured or a level 3 structured recovery home for women. So I want to start out with just women. I don't know what this is going to lead to. I know this is bigger than us though, so who knows what we'll have ultimately in the end. But I think with women, and I'd like to get women with children eventually. That's a whole nother ballgame we'll get into at a later date. But definitely women and children. So I think it's important for kids to be around their just through therapy. Some of the kids need therapy and things like that too. So I see that with my own.
They need to know what's normal and not, at least, as far as drugs go.
Absolutely.
Just because somebody in the house is using doesn't mean it's the right thing, regardless of what you may see or be told. Go ahead.
Yes, absolutely. And that was one thing I noticed with my own boys even, and they went through it while I was gone themselves. And I think there was some things we could have done differently when I came home, but just some classes and things like that. But I think it is very important for the kids to go through some things with the mother or parents, whatever. But we need, so like I've talked about meeting people where they're at. That's the biggest thing with New Roots. I think to meet women where they're at and to help people with just resources. I've already been helping a few people that I can up at our recovery center, just that have reached out to me about like jobs or just so many different needs in our county that things people have needed already. It's a good feeling to be able to do that. But right now I'm just in the process of trying to gain all those connections. And actually we are looking at a facility. We have one in mind. I'll know more. I don't want to talk about it too much today. So
of course.
We'll know more here in the next few weeks, hopefully. So our intentions, we would love to be open and operating in January 27. By that time, I don't know if we'll be able to by then, but that's our intentions. And we're going to do kind of like an open house thing at the Resource Center in November, I believe. So we want to offer we're going to do life skills classes with the girls. I've met with, everybody in Indiana that you could probably think of. I've met with FSSA. I've met with mental health and addiction services. I actually just went to a DOC case manager meeting yesterday, which was really cool. I saw some of my old counselors, saw people that I did not expect to see at all. I didn't expect to talk. I did have to speak to, but it was all right. It was a full circle for sure back, and it was really neat to be in that on the other side of the table yesterday, I guess, with those people that saw me in the whole different light probably 10 years ago. So that was neat. But I think we're getting a lot of really good people on board to help get some other resources in the county as well. And so that was huge yesterday for us. I'm pretty excited about that.
Do you feel you're getting the support from community that you believe you need?
Shockingly, I think we're getting more than I expected.
Good.
I figured it would be a little bit of a struggle at first, and I don't think for us it really hasn't been too much. I really couldn't believe the outpouring that we've got. People have been really, really good so far. I think people are starting to see just as much the need for it. And like we've said, you can't just sit stagnant and not do anything. We have to do something.
If there's no change, there'll be no change.
Yes, yes,
Pretty
yes.
simple.
Yes, we need it. So I think life skills classes. Oh, sorry. Where was I at, Randy? I just lost. Sorry.
You just mentioned life skill classes.
So life skills classes, employment. That's where my husband and I actually have we're in the process of starting an egg roll food truck last year. So this is going to kind of be able to come into play too. I thought to start out, and it's not like we aren't going to make the girls work for us or anything, but that'll be an option, an employment option. We may gain long-term employees through that, and the girls might gain some long-term employment as well. And that just to teach, I don't know, I think that'll help getting the girls back out in the community as well.
Exactly.
And for people to see some of these women out there, I think working and just in every day that we are normal
to pay it back. That, just because they've been through this doesn't mean they need to stay in it.
Absolutely.
That they do have skills, they do have value, they do have worth, and to get to for themselves, that means the world.
Yes.
And the connections that go with it. I know you said you're very much still in planning process. You don't have, long-term goals per se, but I know in the back of your head and in your heart you do. What is the biggest struggle you think you're facing with the New Roots program right now?
Well, up until this point, everything's we're pretty far in the process, I guess. We are really established. We've got a lot of things going right now. We need to get a home. Now, I'm not going to lie. I don't want to bring all this up. I guess with all the things that went on in the community just recently, I think I'm losing an officer and
Yes.
over those circumstances, honestly, I feel like could be a little bit of a struggle as well now. I think that kind of puts a bad taste in people's mouths for some of the recovery home stuff, and that where I hate and I hope that this isn't the case, that it's not just going to be where they just want to throw everybody back in jail. But I don't know. I wonder.
It was a horrible situation on so many fronts.
Oh, my
Obviously,
gosh.
the loss of his life
Mm.
and everything he meant to his family, friends,
In the community,
Yeah. He wasn't just somebody at work. He was somebody who cared about everything he did. And then the circumstances that brought it about leaves a sour taste for some people.
Mm-hmm.
So you've certainly got challenges to overcome. I've been the not-for-profit genre here for the last 12 years with addiction recovery. And the problems only come every day. So get ready. Some of them are by far bigger than others and carry much more of an impact. But it doesn't get any easier tomorrow. You
Right.
just have more tools to fight it with in a positive way. But no, it needs to be done. It can be done.
Yes.
We're getting close to our end here, Lauren. What would you like to wrap things up with? Take a couple minutes here. You own the microphone. Tell us whatever that may be.
Okay. Well, thank you first off for having me today, Randy.
Sure.
I appreciate it greatly. It's been such a good feeling. I was really nervous about I didn't put myself out there. Like I said, I've been home now going on 7 years, and I hadn't put myself out there really until we started doing all of this. I hadn't even really this is my first time telling my story really. So
Awesome.
so bear with me, guys, if I didn't do that great, but I'm still like, even the speaking and stuff like this has been a lot for me. I had to go into rooms with, like I said yesterday, even with counselors, with people I would have never thought I would be going in and speaking to and doing some of the things that I've done now. And I think that's where we can help women do the same thing. I've learned to stand, like I said, I came home and I worked my butt off and I've just got my life together. And once I started to establish a life and to realize that there were different things that we could have different, you really can make your life what it is. And you can do better. I could do better. I deserved better. And I think other people, women especially, you need to know that we deserve better and we can do more things than what I think, I don't know, our minds limit us sometimes. And our situations limit us sometimes. And just getting out of my comfort zone and really, like I said, I never realized, I would have never thought I was strong before or said anything like that or thought anybody would look at me as a strong, independent woman, anything like that. But I know in my heart that I've become that, and I am more confident and comfortable in my life, and my kids are more at peace. We have such a more peaceful life than we've ever had. And a lot of that is from just the normalcy of what most people would think is not a big deal to them, but to us, it's life-changing. It's been life-changing. And just to take away, I know so many people, we want to help everybody that we can. And it's so hard. That's going to be so hard for me because, like I said, I would give the shirt off my back to anybody if I could still to this day, but I've had to learn to pick and choose, not to pick and choose, but to choose myself first, I guess I should say. And that was a lot. You can't, like we said, you can't heal other people until we heal ourselves. And I had a lot of healing to do that I didn't even know. And I think a lot of people are in those same situations. And just coming out of incarceration or addiction and things like that, we have got to educate people right now. We've got to educate on what support services can do and what just throwing in jail and incarceration does versus classes versus just making people just citizens, normal citizens of society and working and having jobs. Like if we can help people do those things, oh my gosh, it's limitless what we can do, really. Like I said, I never would have thought I'd be here doing this even just 7 years ago when I came home. If you would have asked me, I would have said no. But now I'm ready to, and I think sharing your story does help also.
Absolutely, so much, and everything is said there. I think of A Better Life, Brianna's Hope, our organization, the work we've been able to do in the Jay County Jail. Candy Sapp leads that.
Oh, yeah.
The lives we've been able to touch, change, support, and encourage, because it's like the key's been thrown away because nobody comes to visit. Nobody cares anymore. That's not the brother or sister they want to talk about. But having this opportunity with you is a reminder that God loves us all. Loves you, your organization. It's doing glorious things for him, ours, so many others. But folks, we're glad you joined us today. Hope you were able to gain something from this that'll help you turn your life or somebody else's around. Please come back and join us again next week for our next episode of the Faith in Your Recovery podcast. Lauren, it's been a blessing. We'll continue to pray for New Roots Recovery Village Incorporated and trust that God's going to use that in a wonderful way, just as he does you, your husband, and others who are involved with it.
Yes.
Folks, as always, those 4 words, stay in the battle. We know you can win it. God bless. We love you. Amen.